How many of you people think you have the right to vote for president?
I wish I did.
In Gore v. Bush, in the Supreme Court case where the 5 conservative justices appointed our president, usually we like to have our presidents appoint Supreme Court justices. In this case, they appointed the president. In that case, Justice Scalia made a basic point, which was, in the Constitution, there is no right to vote for a president. It's a state right. The states get to decide how the electors are chosen for the Electoral College. And there is no right for you, that you have no right to do anything except what your state says about that. So there's a right not to be discriminated against. You have a right not to be discriminated against on the basis of race or sex or religion in the right to vote. That's in the 14th Amendment. But there is no right to vote for president. So what happened in Florida, if you remember, the Florida legislature is totally controlled by Republicans. They announced that it didn't matter what the recount said when they were certain they were going to lose it. Didn't matter what the recount said. They were going to send pro-Bush delegates, electors, to the Electoral College no matter what. And what Scalia's opinion was saying was they had every right to do that, even if Gore in the recount had won that election by 100,000 votes. So Jesse Jackson Jr., Representative Jackson, has been arguing the case that, the right wing has all of this constitutional politics they do, where they've got a constitutional amendment to put prayer in schools, and a constitutional amendment to ban flag burning, and a constitutional amendment. Every time they wake up, they invent a new constitutional amendment. Jackson's been arguing we ought to have our own constitutional amendments, and it ought to start with the right to vote. And that right to vote amendment ought to give voting rights to the District of Columbia. It ought to make certain that when people pay their debt to society after they are convicted of crimes, their citizenship is restored and they have the right to vote. And then we ought to stump for that and push for it. Jackson, in his book, Towards a More Perfect Union, also argues for a right to affordable, high-quality health care for every American. So we ought to push for a constitutional amendment on that, and a constitutional amendment on affordable, quality public education. And making the sensible point that there's a second rights revolution that we need to create. We need to create a movement around that. If a constitutional amendment process helps that, it's a sensible thing to do. People say to him, well, it's really hard to pass a constitutional amendment. And his argument is, that's right. It creates a movement, then you got to fight for it. You got to fight for it in every state. You got to overcome a lot of resistance. It takes 3/4 of the states to pass them. Let's create the movement to try to do that. Let's have the argument every place about education, about healthcare, and at the very least about the right to vote. So he is starting to push for that, and I think we're gathering a coalition that's going to try to get that introduced into the Congress and begin the process of campaigning around the country on it.